Alex, thank you so much for coming. 301 West Bay, here we are, downtown Jacksonville, center of the universe, right?
Center of the universe.
Center of the universe. Listen, I really do appreciate the time. I want to know about you first. Where did you grow up?
Yeah.
Born and raised here? Or?
No,
right.
not at all. No, originally from Massachusetts. So
okay. Big town, little town?
Little town, yeah, about an hour west of Boston, called Air.
7,000
population.
Nice.
There was one blinking yellow street light, like very small town.
Nice.
And so I moved to Orlando for 2 years of high school.
Okay.
I was real pissed at my mom for moving us, but it was the best decision she ever could have made.
From Air to Orlando.
From Air to Orlando. And we had some family there. And then I grew up in the restaurant business.
Oh, okay.
And so we family in a restaurant, sold it, moved to Orlando. And since I'm Greek, it had to, family had to own a restaurant.
Was it a Greek restaurant?
It was not, no.
It wasn't?
No, when my grandparents started, great-grandparents started back in the day, it wasn't cool to be Greek. So it was like American diner style.
Had no idea.
There you go. And then went to the University of Florida, graduated from UF, and I'd always been entrepreneurial. Didn't want to get a real job.
Sure.
And so I convinced the high school and college buddy to start flipping houses.
Yeah.
And in 2006.
So at UF, so you graduated from UF in 06?
In 05.
In 05. Was your degree in real estate? Because I know UF has a great real estate degree program,
They do.
right?
They do, but mine was not.
No.
I was a marketing major.
Okay.
Yeah, so business school, nothing to do with real estate. I knew nothing about real estate until, after graduating, just started reading a bunch of books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, great book.
How to be a real estate millionaire,
Richard
things
Kiyosaki.
like that. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. So 05 and then 06 is when you started. Kind of. So that's like, you got like a year into it?
It was about a year and a half. So we had 1.5 good years. Had 2 bad years, and then we were able to keep the doors open, and come 2009 had no competition.
So were you doing that here in Jacksonville?
Yeah, in Jacksonville. Yeah.
How did you get from Orlando to UF, then to Jacksonville immediately afterwards?
Well, so my high school and college buddy that I started JWB with, he had already moved to Jacksonville. He graduated a semester beforehand. He was working for Johnson & Johnson up here, and so we were deciding between Gainesville and Jacksonville. Jacksonville was just seemed like a bigger market, more opportunity.
Yeah.
There wasn't any we didn't do any data research into why we should pick a certain market. It's bigger, let's go there, and it worked.
They got a football team.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of actually institutional investors, and some of their thesis is we'll only invest in cities that have NFL football teams.
Yep.
Okay, I guess that
We
works.
did none of that research. If we would have done the research, we probably still would have settled on Jacksonville, because the fundamentals here are phenomenal.
Yeah.
But we didn't. We just said, it's close to Gainesville. Let's start doing houses there.
It's got a beach. Perfect. So you guys started buying houses, and then immediately just doing renovations and then flips.
Yeah.
And that was in 06, 07 through the recession.
Through the downturn.
So
we were buying homes, renovating them, selling them, and then come the downturn, we basically sold off our bad inventory. We paid all of our investors back, so we took all those losses personally. All the money we made in the first year and a half, we lost in the next year and a half.
Yeah.
But then we had access to capital because we had paid all of our investors back, and so we had access to capital in a time when no one else did.
Yeah.
And we were able, back then you could pick up a brand new home for 40 grand.
Yeah.
So we scaled that business from 40 homes a year to 80 homes a year to 200 homes a year to 400 homes a year to 600 homes a year. In the early 2010s, we shifted more from buying existing homes to building new construction. And we still have that business today. We build 400, 500 homes a year. About half we rent out and sell to investors, and about half we sell to owner occupants. It's kind of like entry-level housing, 250 to 300 grand.
And if I remember correctly, this is 2 or 3 months ago, there was an article about one of your programs at JWB for first-time home buyers, where it's like a rent-to-own program.
Well, it's not actually rent-to-own.
Okay.
It's called our Homestead program.
Okay.
Basically, we manage close to 6,000 units here in Jacksonville, about 5,000 single-family homes. We're the largest single-family property manager. And so what we did is all of our current residents are earning $100 a month that is going to an account for them that they can use to buy a new home.
Okay.
And we actually let them out of their lease if they're getting out of their lease to buy a house. And so if you look at our 6,000 residents, and we made it retroactive. So even if you've been a tenant with us for 3 years, you can get $3,600 in your account, and it doesn't cost you anything.
Interesting.
And so if you look at it, with all of our residents, if all of them took advantage of it, which I mean all of them aren't, but if all of them took advantage of it, that would be $16 million that we were giving away to first-time home ownership.
Okay.
And so we think home ownership is something that's really important to the health of communities, the health of Jacksonville. We're big proponents of it. So.
Okay. So let's talk about health of Jacksonville. When you think of, great downtowns, great cities, I'm sure you visited a few. What are some of the names? What are some of the cities that you think of? And then obviously follow-up question, what makes them, great?
Yeah, you've got the tier 1 cities. You've got New York, you've got San Francisco, you've got DC. I think Jacksonville is more compared to cities like Tampa, like Nashville, like Charlotte, like Austin. And the thing you see is you see vibrancy at the street level. You see shops and restaurants. You see mixed-use development. You see public amenities. I mean, a lot of them you don't see a river. We've got this amazing river here.
Sure.
But I think it has to do with true mixed-use development, with ground floor retail bars, restaurants, axe-throwing venues, grocery stores that serve as amenities for the people that live there.
Yep.
And then residential, office, mixed-use up above.
Nightlife.
Of course.
Come to mind, right? Like,
Yep.
In Nashville, what's the street in Nashville?
Broadway.
Yeah,
Yep.
There's that. And Memphis has Beale Street.
Yep.
And, some of those other. Jacksonville doesn't really have that, right? Like, are we going to? Like, is that important?
Well, so I went to the opening for the new venue, Deck Alive.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
Cascade came and played, and it was like Jacksonville was Miami or Vegas.
Yeah.
And that whole strip of bars, and it wasn't just Deck, everyone had a line out in front. And then you've got the Ford on Bay development that'll be happening across the street that will add another side of the street to that nightlife. So, and then downtown, you've got that area, but in other neighborhoods just outside downtown, you've got Riverside Avenue, you've got San Marco.
Yeah.
So there is actually a pretty vibrant nightlife scene here. It's funny, downtown residential has gone from 3,000 residents 10 years ago to 8,000 residents today.
3,000, hang on, I want to say
Yeah.
3,000 to 8,000
in 10 years.
in 10 years.
Almost tripled the amount of residents.
Right.
We have a lot of our employees live downtown and they love it. They say there's something to do every night. Now, if you don't know about downtown and you just drive through here, you might not think that it's this
Sure.
vibrant, amazing place. But if you live here and you know where to go and when to go, I mean, at the entertainment district, you've got events 280 to 300 nights a year. So there is a lot more going on than you can see if you just come into downtown, driving through, and not understanding where to find the activity.
So do we have a communications, a marketing? You're a marketing major. Like, do we have a marketing problem where nobody knows about that and we need to get the word out? Do you think that's an issue?
Well, so you've somewhat. I think the main thing too is you don't want to market something before it becomes truly what it is. So the people that live downtown, you have downtown vision, you got build up
Sure.
downtown, and so there's a downtown dwellers, which is it's a group of downtown residents that know and talk and understand where to go. But I think when we're projecting to the greater Jacksonville community that's skeptical about downtown because they've heard of 40 years of kind of stalled plans and
40
stalled
years of
redevelopment,
renderings, right?
Yeah, that you want it to be not just pockets of great activity.
Yeah.
You want it to be amazing. And so I think that we're 2 to 3 years away from it being where everyone in Jacksonville believes it, where it is truly amazing. But those projects that are going to make it that way are already happening. You've got $300 million worth of parks and infrastructure with the Emerald Trail. You've got our project, the Pearl Square. You've got a lot of the stuff that JW's done along Laura Street. You've got the Four Seasons and the office building and the park system connecting them. I mean, you've got the one Riverside development that's happening in Brooklyn on the river there that's getting some amazing rents and is going to have some amazing retail. I mean,
You haven't mentioned UF yet.
I haven't mentioned the $380 million University of Florida
40,000
campus.
students that are going to ultimately come here.
I mean, if from a city perspective or from an even new development, if no new development happens, downtown is going to be a completely different place in 3 years. And I think that's when you really start, probably the next year, you really start putting more effort into marketing Jacksonville, because there'll be a lot more visible things happening at the street level, where right now a lot of those they're just under construction. But yeah, downtown has a lot more going on today than everyone gives it credit for. The problem is you really have to know where to look. So yeah, I would say that that's a marketing issue. So.
What role, so you mentioned the parks, and that's mainly government funded, you know, and that's great. Like New York would not be the same without Central Park.
No.
If they sold it to a bunch of developers, New York would right, it wouldn't make sense. So government plays a role, of course. If you go to Miami and you ask city officials in Miami to give grants or money for a high-rise development, they'd laugh you out of the office. They don't have those because you don't need,
because the economics work without them.
The economics work without them. So what role does the government play in a city like Jacksonville? You know, are they doing enough? Do they need to do more? Are they giving more than enough? Like what's your kind of take on government's role?
Government role is critical in any sort of downtown revitalization scenario. So if you look at Charlotte, government played a critical role. It was mostly back in the 90s and early 2000s. If you look at Tampa, government played a critical role. All these cities, governments have to reinvest in their urban cores to revitalize them because the general market pressures, it's easier to make more money in the suburbs. And so that's been the case with every single downtown that's gone through a revitalization cycle. We're 20 years behind a lot of those in Jacksonville because of our deconsolidated government.
Yes.
For a while,
Yeah.
the city was not investing in downtown because it wasn't politically prudent or possible or whatever. That has not been true the last 15, 20 years.
Right.
So starting with the Better Jacksonville plan in 2001, we have been investing in our downtown. When the DIA was created in 2012, the DIA has a tremendous amount of incentive programs. City Council and the administration, the last couple administrations, have been very pro-downtown. Right
Sure.
now, they all run on being pro-downtown. And so I would say that the city has been doing the exact right amount of incentives and investment in downtown. You don't want to give away the farm to developers. You don't want to over-incentivize stuff.
Right.
And you also don't want to under-incentivize stuff and not get deals done. And I think you can see there's been a lot of deals getting done in the last 10 years. It's always slower than we want, than everyone wants, but there is a tremendous amount of deals that are under construction right now because of a lot of the great work of our city council and the administration.
Yeah, because I feel like if you bring a project to the city council or DIA and it's nice and new and shiny and they're going, they want that, and so they're going to allow that and they'll give some money. So it's very, very frustrating to see the government be on board, give money away, right, and then still nothing happen, right? It's just very, very frustrating. So how do, and this is an impossible question to answer, I realize that, but how do we as like a metropolitan area like bring more income? How do we get higher paying jobs? How do we, like office rents in downtown are $25 a square foot, right? In Miami, they're $150 a foot.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I want to be like Miami, but how do we get it to be at least $50 a foot so that we can build a new office building? How do we do that?
I think it comes down to exactly what we've been doing. It just takes longer than everyone wants.
Okay.
So I actually think, like, if you look at Water Street, Tampa,
Yes.
the downtown Tampa core area, which is 15 blocks away from Water Street, office rents are $35 a foot, $40 a foot. In Water Street, the rents are $65 and $70 a foot. And so what you need in order to get office rents up is make the environment more attractive for office workers and for businesses.
Okay.
By giving office workers a reason to go downtown because there's vibrant streets and parks and restaurants. And so having a thriving, vibrant Laura Street and downtown is going to increase the demand for downtown office as compared to suburban office, and that raises rents. And so the work that DIA has been doing to get more vibrancy here, getting not just office, but residents, getting the restaurants, the bars, the parks, like all that stuff is going to raise, we've seen it across the country, raise office rents when you compare a thriving, vibrant downtown sector to a dead downtown sector. And there has not been enough activity and enough amenities in downtown to drive office, a demand compared to the suburbs. Right. But that work is happening right now.
And so it's the classic chicken or the egg, right? Do you get the people downtown first and then build the offices or in the retail, or do you put the retail first, but then the retail is not going to come because there's no people down here. So you guys are taking the approach of let's just
build it all at the same time.
Build a residential, but majority of your development is residential.
Well, we have
right?
we're in the Pearl Square project. We have
Right.
over 200,000 square feet of ground floor retail.
Okay.
So we think that it's critical that everything is residential with ground floor retail on the bottom, and that way you're building your amenities with your residential, and the residential rents will be increased because you have great amenities, and those amenities are amenities for everyone downtown. They're
Sure.
amenities for office workers, or amenities for residents, or amenities.
I think of what's now called Rosemary Square down in West Palm Beach.
Okay.
It's owned by related companies, and it was like an open air retail kind of concept, but then they built residential kind of all around it, and so you've got probably 200,000 square feet of retail there. What is in your mind, what is a perfect mix of retail in downtown for Pearl Street? Is it, a higher end, Nordstrom? Is it a higher end, Saks or something like that? Is it like a mini Home Depot? Like what's the?
So for us, food and beverage leads urban redevelopment projects almost 100% of the time. So in Water Street, so we think Tampa is the closest, corollary? Was the word?
Well, yeah.
Closest example to what we're trying to achieve here. And at Water Street, they led with restaurants. So they actually had besides a nail salon, they had a Publix. So we need to get a grocer. That's 100%. Something we were focusing on, but restaurants really lead the way. Like Pearl Square, we believe, and based on the feedback we're getting from restaurants that we're negotiating with, it was going to be the nicest dining district between Atlanta and Orlando.
Okay.
And so you lead with food and beverage, grocer, high-end gym. We're working on those, and your neighborhood amenities like a nail salon, like a bodega. We actually didn't think we were going to have any St. John's Town Center level shopping retail for a while. I thought we'd get some local boutique retail, but we're actually having great traction with some phenomenal, true, St. John's Town Center level retail that is excited about downtown. And honestly, when we go out to to developers, to retail, to restaurants, they come to Jacksonville and they see it because they've seen it happen in Tampa, in Nashville, in Charlotte, in Atlanta. They've seen this revitalization happen. They say this feels exactly like Austin, like Rainy Street, Austin in 2013, 2014. Like downtown Jacksonville feels like that. And so the response has been absolutely phenomenal from those kind of out of market investors and retailers, tenants.
And we've got a high-end private members-only club coming, with the June.
The June.
Like that's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
Right? What is the biggest hurdle that downtown has that maybe private investors can't fix, that we kind of really need the government to get involved in? Are there things that is it sidewalks? Is it the homeless? Is it the?
I think the right level of continued investment is the most important thing.
Okay.
So if all of a sudden City Council said we're not incentivizing any new projects, like that, the good thing is just because of all the projects that are already underway, downtown would still look different in 3 years, but we would lose momentum for 5, 7, 8 years. The next 5 to 7 and 8 years. I think infrastructure is hugely important, but the city's already all in on that. We've got the Emerald Trail, we've got two-waying of streets, we've got road diets, we've got the parks. I think the homelessness is an issue. I've always considered it to be less important of an issue, but I think homelessness across the country is something that is getting worse because of the unaffordability of housing, and so I think that is something that the city can really focus on. The city's already doing a lot. I think the name of the game for downtown homelessness is providing more and better services to the homeless, but not doing it in the heart of downtown. And actually, when we went to Charlotte on the Chamber leadership trip back in 2013, and the mayor of Charlotte had a great quote that I've repeated a lot, and it was, "We need to love and care for our homeless population. We don't have to do it on our most expensive real estate." And to that point, Sulzbacher Center, which has been one of the largest homeless service providers in downtown, amazing organization, been good friends with their CEO for a long time. They are relocating outside of downtown. They already have bought real estate. They've already funded the first phase of their project. And I think that model of having increased services for the homeless and doing it outside of downtown is a model that I think the city's looking to continue and something the city can continue to help with.
Yeah.
Because it is becoming, I believe, more of an issue now than it was 4 years or 5 years ago.
No, that's good. My take is it is a issue. It may not be the issue.
Right.
And my example that I always kind of say is like, if I snap my fingers and every single homeless person was gone overnight, I should say relocated, I guess, would downtown change? It's like, well,
no,
not overnight.
It needs a lot more than that.
It's a issue. It's not the issue.
100%.
Does Jacksonville have an identity? And if not, does it need an identity? Like, Austin is weird, right?
It's not weird anymore.
Well, that's like
I think they've stopped saying that there too.
Oh, you're not allowed to say it anymore?
I don't know. I haven't heard in a long
thought it
time.
was like
when I
on
went to Austin
bumper
20
stickers.
years ago, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
And now Austin is like techie. So
okay.
it's changing. It's changing.
Do we need a motto? Do we need to be known for something? And like in my mind, like I see our river. It maybe not the most beautiful river, but it's a great scenery, right? Do we need to have just hundreds and hundreds of public boat slips and make this like the boating destination capital of the world?
Yeah.
Do we need, what do we need in order to have an identity?
Yeah.
And
the identity question has been asked a lot over the years, and there's two things that I've always heard about is that Jacksonville is an extremely welcoming, happy place to be.
Okay.
And so I don't know how you put that on a bumper sticker. And the other thing is about our water. I think we have more miles of coastline than any city in the country.
Okay.
And so I think the waterfront is something that's huge, especially for our downtown identity. I think there's a lot going on the waterfront. I mean, the whole bulkhead is getting redone in front of the river and plaza. You've got 900 square feet of brand new boat slips. I think getting more restaurants on the water, which there's a bunch of those happening, is going to be critical. So I think it really needs to be a very large community conversation about the identity and our slogan in that. I don't think that's the most critical thing for downtown, because if we just keep doing the right things with downtown development and abiding by the principles and investing in our infrastructure and the city continues to incentivize deals, we're going to have an amazing downtown that everyone in Jacksonville that currently travels to Charleston or Charlotte or wherever to get an urban experience, they'll come here. Yeah. And that will create a tremendous economic boom in downtown. So I think that's the first step. I would like at some point for us to figure out our identity. I mean, the problem is Jacksonville is 3/4 the size of Rhode Island.
I know.
So I
haven't heard that one.
It's 3/4 the size of Rhode Island. So coming up with one identity for a place that really anywhere else in the world would be 10 or 15 or 20 different cities is very hard. So I think the marketing our individual neighborhoods that all have unique character and history is something that we do some of, but could probably be done better. But
I kind of like 3/4 the size of Rhode Island. Like maybe that should be our
Jacksonville. We're 3/4 the size of Rhode Island.
That should be our motto, right?
Why not?
Talk to me a little bit. Talk to me high level. I don't want to get into specifics. Talk to me high level about the conversations that you have with prospective investors.
Yeah.
When you're saying, listen, we'd love for you to be part of some of the development that's going in downtown. And the first question that they ask is, well, great, where's the other development? Like you all are pioneers, or I feel like you're pioneers in downtown Jacksonville, and you are responsible for creating the new Jacksonville 2.0 landscape, right? How do you pitch that?
Well, I don't think we're pioneers. I think we're taking a next step. But there's been so many developers and developments that have been pioneers. I mean, we went from 3,000 units 10 years ago to 8,000 today.
Right.
And JW built 40 of those.
Yeah.
So there was another 5,000 units that somebody else built in Brooklyn and the South Bank. I mean, with what Steve Atkins did with the Barnett in the core. I mean, there's been so many other developments that have happened that had nothing to do with JWB or Gateway. And when you look at what Shad and the Jaguars are doing down by the Four Seasons, I mean, that is a transformative project And there's a lot of other development that's happening in the core with what Related is doing in the South Bank. I mean, so I don't. That's how I would come at that. I don't view us as pioneers. I view us as a big piece of taking another step for downtown. But the pioneering happened 10 years ago, and when you look at what the interest that we're having, the leases that we are getting signed, the LOIs that we are negotiating, it's a pretty compelling story for investors right now.
Yeah, it probably makes it easier to tell that story every LOI that you get, right?
Exactly.
That's good.
Yeah.
What else? You mentioned city council and government needs to keep doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else outside of that, like if you were the mayor, you were the mayor tomorrow, would you do anything different other than keep doing what they're doing? How big of a priority is moving the jail? Mm-hmm. I know that's been talked about. The homeless, issue. Is there anything else that you would do if you were mayor?
Honestly, I wouldn't, because understanding, because being so tied in downtown, I understand what's happening, what the work that's trying to be done to solve the homelessness issue, what's happening with all the other developments that are going on downtown. I think that Mayor Curry did a phenomenal job. I think that the Mayor Deegan is doing a phenomenal job. I think City Council's incentivizing the right projects. Moving the jail is a 7 to 10 year thing. I think it's great. I think that's not the most important thing for downtown by far, but I think having a great development there, probably a convention center, would be great for downtown. I think helping the Hyatt, potentially building an intermediary convention center exhibition hall close to the Hyatt, which can help the Hyatt be more successful and also potentially replace the loss of the Prime Osborne. If UF is going to develop that site in the next 5 to 10 years, I think that's something. But that is actually something that's currently being looked at and talked about. So I think that no, I would say that downtown is on 100% the right trajectory. And there's going to be a lot more headlines coming out over the next year or two that hopefully will help people in Jacksonville really start believing and understanding what's going on. The people that live in downtown already believe it. Yeah. But I don't know if you saw, but the Starbucks was announced at the Bank of America Tower. Yeah. That's having a Starbucks back in downtown is huge. There's a Michelin star chef that's looking at the other Laura Street corner of the Bank of America Tower. Yep. We're bringing Oak Steakhouse to the Greenleaf Building. So Steve Palmer, celebrity chef and restaurant owner, opened up his Oku in Jax Beach a couple years ago. Everyone told him he was crazy. Why are you going to Jacksonville? That is his #1 performing Oku in the country. Is it? And so he said, let's do more in Jacksonville. He's so excited about downtown and putting Oak. And we're excited to get one of the best steakhouses in the country, in our building. And there's going to be so many more announcements and developments along Laura Street and along the waterfront. We're excited. And that's to just keep doing what we're doing. Don't stop the momentum is where I'm coming from.
And then, hopefully, no global, economic issues, happen. But even if they do, I feel like, the last one was the pandemic, and everybody's like, oh my God. But Florida was a huge beneficiary.
Yeah,
so
beneficiary of that.
Hopefully that'll.
And I think having a thriving, vibrant urban downtown, and it's one that's going through redevelopment, is a huge buffer to, a national recession. I mean, Charlotte is one of the cities that actually fared really well in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, and that was because they had in that time period was when they invested a ton in their downtown, and the growth in their downtown actually really, put a floor in the damage that they saw from the Great Recession.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think the things that we're doing today in Jacksonville and in downtown are going to be a great buffer against whatever happens in the global or national economy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to start kind of wrapping things up. There's always a question that I try to end on that I don't throw out there ahead of time because I want people to kind of think about it on the spot. But if there was a book written about you, what would the title be?
A book written about me.
Yeah.
He's not as dumb as he seems. I don't know. I get, over the years, people are like, that guy's kind of crazy. What is he thinking? And we've always made it work.
Not as dumb as he seems. I like it.
So,
I like it.
That's the best I can come up with on the spot.
No, that's good. I mean, I'm forcing you to describe your life, basically. So, no, that's good. I appreciate it. I really appreciate the time. If all of us collectively need to kind of think and make sure that, get all the ideas out there so that we can keep the momentum going.
100%.
It's amazing to drive into downtown and see construction cranes everywhere, right? It's awesome.
And the next couple of years, you're only going to see more and more. So
yeah, I appreciate the time.
Absolutely.
Alex,
Thanks for
thank
having
you.
me.
All right.